Today, what we're going to be doing is talking about business finance. And that gives you a very healthy starting point. You can compare where your business is at compared to what's going on in your industry. So there's a lot of research available, typically online, of industry trends of what's an appropriate gross margin percentage to be operating at. So again, if you break it into these kind of three very simple frameworks, I have my cost to actually deliver the service. Hey, this is Rick Bozza. This is the Drive Podcast. Today, what we're going to be doing is talking about business finance. So just actually wrapped up our 2024 budget for the companies, which I'm really excited about. This is like the first formal budget since I've taken over. Kind of mad at myself that I haven't done this sooner because it's always really eye-opening. But as I went through it and put together like the projected profit and loss statement, I have had a lot of conversations with people who have really opened my eyes to maybe not really knowing how a P&L works. All right, so when you think about the P&L, I like to break it into three kind of simplified frameworks. So the first one is our top, and that's going to be our gross margin, okay? And our gross margin is developed from what I would say is our sales minus the field labor involved in completing the service. So that's sending the plumber to someone's home with all of the parts, the materials that they are needing, as well as if there's any apprentice or anyone who's required to support them. So how we come to our gross margin, again, is going to be the sales minus labor minus parts. And then what we're left with is gross margin. So that is a helpful starting point because what you can do is figure out the percentage. So typically, whatever number you are left with here, you can divide that number by your sales and you have your gross margin percentage, right? And that gives you a very healthy starting point. You can compare where your business is at compared to what's going on in your industry. So there's a lot of research available, typically online, of industry trends of what's an appropriate gross margin percentage to be operating at. And what I really like about that is it really helps give an apples to apples comparison kind of regardless of size in a lot of cases, because everything else below here is really what I would describe as the expenses required to support that field labor in the business is the way I think of it from home services, right? So this is now all of my overhead, right? So this is going to be things like gas, which is extremely expensive here in San Diego. Insurance, which is also extremely expensive, especially working in the trades. And you can get the idea. So you can go on and on. So computers, phones, your internet, everything, licenses, like everything that's included, all here. And then ultimately you fill this in, plus, all of the different things that are going in here. And you are left with your actual profit, right? So if you break it into these kind of three very simple frameworks, I have my cost to actually deliver the service. I have my costs associated with supporting the delivery of the service. Oh, I forgot, obviously, a hugely important one along with that, all these is marketing, right? I have to actually attract people to our service. And there's so many, of course, but everything that's involved to deploying it. This is also your office staff, your phone team if you need someone to be answering the phone. So again, everything involved in supporting the actual delivery of the service. And then what is left over is understandably your profit. And typically with small businesses, you're really hoping for like that 10 to 25% range, which is great. It would be great if you could actually keep that. But the reason a lot of these businesses need to try to operate, let's say in the 20%, for example, is because basically half of that goes back to the government. Especially here in the great state of California, back to the government in form of taxes. So then you figure, well, you need about half of that, which is left over to actually reinvest into the business and be able to continue to grow. You need a chunk of probably half of that available in case there's vans that go down, unforeseen maintenance, insurance issues, all these types of things. So realistically, when it's all said and done, you're left with a pretty fraction of that. Now, the idea, though, of course, is if you're able to grow the business successfully over time, even a fraction of that is a well-supported living for you as the owner. But there is obviously a lot that goes into how this all gets derived. But when you have this framework in place, the really great thing about it especially for a business like ours, is you're able to come up with the price that you need in order to sell your goods and services. So you can kind of back that into whether it's an hourly rate or a flat rate product, or however you're basically figuring that out. It allows you to get to, okay, how much do we need to charge? How many services do we need to provide in order to do that? And that's really how you can start building out the budget. But really, it's this framework that is allowing you to do that. And I think when you have it in this kind of 3 simple chunks, it really simplifies what can be an intimidating and very complex looking thing when you have it all in the Excel spreadsheet and they're thinking like, oh my God, how do I even get started? So reminder again, the 3 are cost to deliver my services in the field, cost of supporting those services basically behind the scenes or back in the office, and then what's left over is profit. So I hope that's helpful. It's budgeting season, so take this and do what you will with it. Thanks for checking this out. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free to drop a comment. If it was helpful, it's a new podcast. I would certainly appreciate you doing the like and subscribing, and please share it out. Thank you.